We didn't fight. Think about the people you've lost in your life. Usually there's a reason, right? Like an inciting incident, a massive argument. But in this case, there was absolutely no anger.
There wasn't some huge screaming match, No one was frantically blocking the other person on social media. There was no dramatic final goodbye message sent in the heat of the moment. Just nothing.
Slowly, quietly, we just stopped talking. And that, honestly, is the terrifying, deeply painful reality we're exploring today. The kind of loss where you lose someone without ever actually losing them.
Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. I'm so incredibly glad you're here with us today. Okay, let's dive into this. We are going to be following a highly personal story by a writer named Bastap, who documented the gradual, totally silent loss of his best friend Arjun. And by mapping out the anatomy of their fading bond, we're going to understand exactly how best friends just become strangers.
Section 1. Anatomy of the Bond, the Golden Years. To really grasp the emotional stakes of this drift, we have to flash back to 11th grade in Guwahati. Now, Bastap was the quiet, kinda awkward new kid, but Arjun was vibrant. He was the guy who could just command a room, and their entire friendship kicked off with this incredible little inciting incident. Bastap was eating lunch completely alone. Arjun walks right up, drops his tiffin box on Bastap's desk and says, "Bro, if you eat alone, even the food feels sad. Shift." I mean, that warmth, it changed absolutely everything. From that single simple lunchbox interaction, they became completely inseparable.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that these aren't just random events. They are literally the foundational building blocks of a shared identity. Bunking class to grab momos near Pan Bazaar, sharing earphones on the bus ride home, having those deep 3 a.m. talks about fears in the future, or, running 2 kilometers in the pouring rain and watching stand-up comedy instead of actually studying for board exams. They were blending their lives together into 2 years of pure magic, completely sealed with this promise that distance wouldn't change a single thing.
Section 2. Mechanics of the drift, when life happens.
The really painful truth here is that the fading of a friendship almost never happens suddenly, right? It's insidious. After high school, they both got into decent colleges, but their environments fundamentally shifted. On one side, we have side A. Bastap heads up to Bangalore for engineering. He's suddenly thrown into crazy hostel life and fast-paced internships. But on side B, Arjun stays in Guwahati. He's studying BCom, finding new hangout spots, building entirely new friend circles. And that physical distance, it created these parallel worlds. The overwhelming pace of just life happening started building a wall between them, literally brick by invisible brick.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this decay happens slowly over time. I want you to really notice the shift. At first, it's just daily 5-minute calls. Then, it drops to calls every 2 days, then weeks. Soon enough, texts are taking hours to get a reply. Those long, hilarious voice notes, they devolve into just, haha, same. Or, bro, busy, we'll call later. And you tell yourself, oh, they're just busy. But the months pass, and eventually it devolves into a terrifying 2 years of absolute silence.
The starkest evidence of this drift is actually right there in the language they used. Back in the golden years, a text like, "Bro, you won't believe what happened today," implies a huge, deep investment in each other's lives. But in the present, it's just, "How are you? Good, you? Fine, yeah." It's so sterile. Their deeply rooted connection officially devolved into those forced, surface-level exchanges you'd have with, like, a distant relative at a wedding.
Section 3. The pain of no closure. The 12-minute phone call.
The climax of their drift happened during a final phone call about 2 years ago. It was 11:47 p.m., and they stayed on the phone for exactly 12 minutes. But instead of feeling like old times, it was just full of heavy, unnatural silences. Just agonizing. And before hanging up, Arjun said, "We should do this more often." Bastap replied, "Yeah, man, definitely." But they never did. And it's heartbreaking because that phrase, it's nothing but an empty promise. It's a polite fiction they used just to avoid admitting out loud that the friendship was already gone.
This right here is what makes the silent breakup so uniquely agonizing. It's when two people who once shared absolutely everything slowly become two people who share nothing. There is no villain to blame here, and because there's no villain, there is absolutely no closure. It's just an open wound. You see them posting on social media with new friends, looking so happy, and alongside feeling happy for them, there's this sharp, sinking pain that you have been entirely replaced.
And that inevitably leads to these unanswerable doubts that just plague your internal monologue. You start wondering, does he ever feel the same way when he sees my stories?
You literally open their chat, you type out, "What's up, bro?" and then you just stare at it because it feels way too small of a message for the massive history you share, right? But updating them on your whole life, that feels way too big. So you hit backspace, you delete it, and you don't send anything.
So, the crucial point is that it ultimately comes down to this specific, terrifying fear. What if he replies with just, "Haha, yeah"? Sending a vulnerable message like, "Hey, remember the Momo place near Pan Bazaar?" is a massive emotional risk. If the other person hits you back with a cold, surface-level reply, it completely solidifies the loss. And honestly, that would hurt so much more than the silence does. So, both sides just choose the safety of silence.
Section 4. The final lesson. Fighting the fade.
Bastab shared his deeply personal story so we could translate his heartbreak into a universal warning. Friendships do not just survive on their own. They absolutely require maintenance. Let's move to and see how this builds. Here are the 3 silent killers you explicitly need to watch out for: distance, time, and new chapters. If you aren't actively managing these 3 variables, one day you're going to wake up and realize you haven't spoken to your absolute best friend in months. You have to fight for the connection before that silence becomes permanent.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought today. Who is your Arjun? Who is your Priya? Who is that person you used to share literally everything with, whose chat you now open, type a message, and then just delete? To those of you who have already lost them, I see you, and it's totally okay to still love them from afar. But to those who still have a chance, are you really going to let them become a stranger? Pick up the phone today. Thank you so much for walking through this explainer with me. Take care of your people while you still can.